good, y'all? Gone Badu, back with another video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right, so as you could tell from the title of this video, this is about how I stumbled into this thing, this new phenomenon, this new fad of the spiritual community called the Law of Assumption, which in my opinion, which is what this entire channel is revolved around, my own opinions. Let me stress that. These are my own opinions. We can differ, all right? But in my opinion, the law of assumption and the law of attraction are the exact same thing. And when you put those two things together, they also align with biblical findings, okay? So this is just my video to show how everything that we all believe is literally coming from the exact same source, but we are explaining it in different ways. And the moment that we as a collective realize that, then we can coexist and there will be a true sense of peace and serenity. But I digress from that, okay? So I do have some notes on my phone here to talk about how I stumbled into the law of assumption. So a little tiny bit of backstory. I had been dealing with a struggle. I was waiting on this piece of mail that would not come. Okay, I've never struggled to receive mail to this address. I've lived at this address for over a decade and I've never had a problem receiving any mail except for this one piece of mail that stood between me and my future. Okay, I had requested this piece of mail over 5 times over the span of 7 months. And in this time, I had happened to start a business. And so my business had developed over the span of 7 months to the point where I was desiring a P.O. box. Okay. And so I was literally signing the paperwork and everything. And I had this thought to myself and I was like, I don't know why, but I just have a feeling that as soon as I get this P.O. box and set this as my new address, that piece of mail is going to come in the blink of an eye. That was just a quick thought, came in and out, didn't think twice about it, moved on with my life, but that is exactly what happened. The moment I changed my P.O. box address to, instead of doing like the mailing to my house, I did the P.O. box. As soon as I did that, that mail came in less than 7 days. What I was waiting 7 months for came in 7 days because of the law of assumption or the law of attraction, simply because I believed without a doubt that something good was going to happen. My desired outcome would come of this. The law of assumption is literally assuming the best. We as humans tend to assume the worst. Law of assumption is assuming the best. Law of attraction is keeping your mentality in the best state as possible. Okay, you have to do both at the same time. Okay, now I will say that I feel like the law of attraction gets explained in a more complex way that makes it seem a lot more impossible because we are human. We get negative thoughts. What we forget to mention is that it's the actions and the reply, the pushback to that negativity, that entails what comes of the situation. Again, as humans, we tend to assume the worst. And when we assume the worst, we feed into the worst. But by assuming the best and feeding into the best, you are then assuming and attracting the best. Which brings me to Mark 11:24 and Matthew 21:22 for the religious biblical support, because I do like to use biblical support to show that it is literally all the exact same thing. And the moment that we realize that, we can then coexist, okay? But all in all, the takeaway here is I made an assumption about an action, took said action, and with faith, I waited for my assumption to come true. Faith does not mean that you always believe that this is going to happen. There are doubts. There are worries. But it's what you feed into. You're like, yeah, I hear those doubts, but I'm going to feed into my positive assumption, this positive energy. I'm going to breathe life into it. What can I assume the best of this situation? How can I assume and make the best of this situation? Allow yourself to go into la la land. We have been conditioned as a society to be realistic and assume the worst, when that's literally assuming and attracting the worst. It's about training your mind, discipline, to assume and think better, if you will. Think better. This is what I like to refer to as Christ consciousness. Let's bring it all the way back to the Holy Bible. I'm tying it all in together to show that once again it is all connected. Christ consciousness is that ability to renew your mentality time after time, to assume the best, to then attract the best. Christ consciousness, law of attraction, prayer, law of assumption, it's all the same. All in all, the divine God, Holy Spirit, the entities, the one true source just wants us to focus on our mentality. If you can train your mind, you can control your life. That's what all of these teachings want us to realize, is that when you control your mind, you can then control your life. That doesn't mean that things that you don't want to happen won't happen. It's going to happen because it's part of life. But it's what you do with that energy. Are you going to assume that it's going to spiral into something worse, or are you going to assume that this is a change that is occurring for the better to then attract better? Are you going to pray that this situation gets better so that you then attract better? Are you going to pray that that piece of mail is going to be in that P.O. box? You're going to assume that it's going to be there. I'm going to open that mailbox. Is this going to be there? Even if I doubt it a little bit, I'm still going to assume, you know what? No, like, it can still be there. It's a tug of war. It takes discipline to have a positive mentality. And having a positive mentality does not mean that you don't get negative thoughts. It just means that you know how to work with them, work through them, and not let them control you. All right, so let me just pull up those scriptures I was talking about. Mark 11:24. The very first version that's popping up is the New International Version. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. When you are asking, assume that it's already there and it will be yours. There's no time on when, but just know that it will be yours. And then Matthew 21:22, the very first one popping up here. What version is this? I'm not sure. I think it's a King James. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. You can pray for anything, and if you have faith, you will receive it. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. That's the same statement reiterated 3 times. All in all, when you ask for it, when you assume that it's already yours, it's already on the way. It's already being attracted to you. Peace, love, light, and coexistence is all that I want on this earthly plane. This is not to say that my theory is correct. This is not to say that your theory is incorrect. This is not to say that I'm correct or you're incorrect or they're incorrect or I'm incorrect and correct. There's no right or wrong here. Let's just learn to coexist. Thank you. Namaste.
Hey.